Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is the 5-minute watch review. My name is Strider, or you can call me Little Jim. Most videos are going to be 5 minutes long, but extra special watches get the spotlight. And that could be as long as 20 minutes. So strap in, we're going for a ride.
When I wake up at night, I gotta know the time. Can I sleep some more? Out of bed I climb. Check throughout my workday, counting down to lunch. Looking at my wrist all day, checking the time a bunch. It's not just about the time, it's part of my identity. The character of the design, exhibiting my complexity. The colors, my mood, rushed out the house without it, I'm screwed. Without my watch, feel nude. It's part of my life, it's who I am. I'm a big-time watch lover, a huge-ass fan. I know my phone has a clock, but I don't care. My phone lacks the flair. My watch shows my personality, my individuality. My interest in love, I keep buying more to satisfy my urges. I can't stop collecting, overspending splurges, emptying the bank. Now I got too many payments on several services. Quartz or auto, and yeah, you need to win the lotto to buy some complications. You spend a little, you spend a lot chasing your grails and buying what's hot. Put on your diver.
Welcome back into the channel. My name is Jim, and we're here to talk about watches. Today we're going to be talking about the Borman Moonphase. Now, I had never heard of this brand, but the clean, classy design of this particular model and the elegant representation of the Moonphase disc really intrigued me. So here we are. Now, I am not a huge shopper of any discount overseas sites, but I've had pretty darn good luck with Temu. I've ordered a few, household things like kitchen tools and, pillowcase covers, things like that. And I found that stuff for a lot less money than I spent elsewhere. So it was a good deal. Pretty fast shipping from overseas. And it was either free shipping. Yeah, it was free shipping from everything that I recall. So for me, the benefits were, okay, I got free or super cheap shipping. As I read through their stuff here, because I want to make sure I'm giving them, the proper representation if I'm going to bring them up. Free returns for 90 days. There's a delivery guarantee, so if something doesn't make it, you get refunded. There's a price protection policy, so if you buy something and within 30 days the price drops, you could request a partial refund, and they'll do that price adjustment for anything within 30 days. So I like money, and I prefer to keep as much of it as possible in my bank account. So I made it easier on myself once I discovered this, and I went ahead and downloaded the app because it's a little bit easier to use the app than it is to shop on your phone on your browser. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, enough about that. This is the presentation of the watch, and while I think this is a super cool thing here with the protective cushion that's cut out to show the dial, the unfortunate thing is they printed it upside down. So if you orient the box to where you can read the brand name, the watch is upside down. And you really can't do anything about that because that's how the strap is oriented in the box. So maybe what they could have done, you can't take that out. That's glued in. I was thinking they could have turned that the other way. Well, you know what? That still wouldn't have mattered. So yeah, no. Borman, reprint these top foam inserts so that it's oriented properly. Anyway, but it's a cool concept, just a little fail on the execution. And here you have the instruction manual for this specific watch. And there is that absolutely beautiful dial, which I really can't do justice here because of the reflections of my studio lights. There you see the cable for my microphone, things like that. So you're not able to get the full effect. I hope that what I did in the intro gives you a better idea of what it looks like. Anyway, So when it comes to where I got the watch, I've shopped at a lot of different places, but because I had the good experiences that I had with Temu and I found a few interesting watches, I reached out to them on my own and gave them a request. I said, hey, is there anything that we could do together where I could participate with you and get some sort of discount code for my viewers? They were super nice about it. They agreed and gave me this code to pass on to you guys. So it's nothing terribly crazy, and all it does is save you money. If you use the code DNN4935 when you're using, I think you have to use the app, I'm not sure. But whether you're shopping online, on their website, or on the app, that should work. And I'll add it to the video description below so you can just copy and paste it. You don't have to memorize anything. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy anything, but if you do, it's always a good idea to save as much extra money as you can. Now, before we get to the beauty of the dial, let's talk about the movement, because when it comes down to it, a big reason you're going to want this watch is because, yes, it's a Moonphase, but that Moonphase is being run off of an automatic movement instead of quartz. And in this price range, that's kind of crazy. Now, inside, you've got a beautifully decorated automatic movement, and it's not like some run-of-the-mill cheapie. Now, it's not expensive, but it's not cheaply made or appointed. It appears to be the Hangzhou 7M01, and there is an engraving on the top plate that says 7M01, so I think that that's pretty much akin to the 7200, although they don't have an actual listing for that in their specifications. So I'm just kind of having to wing it on that, and I hope I'm right. Now, the power reserve on the 7200 is a staggering 80 hours. So that's amazing, especially for a high beat movement that's running at 28.8. So you've got a 28.8 movement with an 80-hour power reserve that's operating a nice-looking complication, and it's beautifully decorated. They did a really, really nice job on this. Let me just kind of clean this off very quickly. There we go. Beautifully done Côte de Genève on the top plate. And then as we get back here, you can see even more. They've done a really nice gilded rotor. It's very elegant looking, very nicely appointed. Now the case is 41.5 millimeters. Now, this watch is going to look larger than that because it has a very large dial opening. So you have a very slim bezel, a large dial opening, big dial, and that means it's going to play visually a little bit larger on your wrist. Oh yeah, it always helps if you take the sticker off, doesn't it? Bet that movement looks a little bit nicer now. Yeah, it's going to catch the light a little bit better in the Geneva stripes. Okay, anyway. The strap is decent, but not great. So I'm going to be changing this leather strap out for most likely a lizard strap, maybe an alligator strap. I have a few lizards and a few alligators laying around. The trick is, though, this is a 21 millimeter lug width. Most everything I have is 20, 22, and 24. So it's an odd size, so I don't know if I have something that fits. I kind of hope that I do, because I don't like this strap. It's also very, very stiff. Now, I do like the dual deploying clasp on there. They did a nice job on that. This design overall, let's kind of back this up just a little bit, kind of looks like a crossbreed of the Moser Endeavor and the Seiko Presage. It's kind of like the love child of the two. Now, to further confuse you, this factory seems to make other brands and one nearly identical watch, with the exception of the Moonphase is over here at the 10 o'clock position instead of the 6. And that is the, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to say Wancher, W-A-N-C-H-E-R, Dream Moonphase. It's the same concave bezel. It's the same case shape. It's the same type of dial. It's the same movement. So, yeah, I'm kind of thinking they're coming out of the same factory. Now, here's where things start to get a little bit nuts. The crystal is sapphire. So to me, that adds even more value proposition to this watch. That's only $136. And it gives you a really nice view into that blue fume dial and that really crisp satin finished Moonphase indicator. Now, speaking of prices, I found it as high as $448 on another website. Listen, this is nice, but it is not $448 nice. The case finishing is really well done. Let's give you guys a nice close-up on that. I love the shape of the bezel. It's a concave bezel. Again, more of a minimalistic look. Looks really, really nice. And I love how thin the bezel is on the case back because it really shows off the movement a lot. You've got a very large opening there to show off the movement. And notice there is no cheap plastic movement holder inside. I like that. The top plate is really well decorated. The rotor's nicely engraved. They accentuated the balance bridge. Let's get that heavy rotor out of the way. That balance bridge is really gorgeous. Now, it's weird how prominent it is in this movement, but it looks really nice. It makes this kind of seem more expensive than it is. Now, the milled case here has contrast finishing, so the mid case is done in a bead blasted finish. Everything else is mirror polished, and that accentuates the outer lines going around the lugs, which I really like a lot. I think it's cool. So it feels really luxurious. But what is this? They've chosen to engrave on the case middle. I don't know why. It says automatic, and it says by Pink Venom. I have no clue what that means. If you guys know, please let me know down below. And then something else that I can't quite make out. Oh, it's a reference number. And then right above it, yeah, I'm not entirely too certain. But that's a cool idea, but not for this watch. That would be cool on a casual wear watch or a dive watch, but not on an elegant dress watch. What a miss. But the machining is really done well. The detail is done well. It's well executed, and it shows off some of their manufacturing prowess. The dial, however, and that's the most important visual part, is a showstopper. So you've got a fume-style dial, so you've got it where it's light, and it gradiates to a darker tone of that color, of that blue, going outward toward the indices. And it's got sunray to it as well. So it's got a really gorgeous look. Again, that's going right back to that Moser look, which I think is cool. And listen, not a lot of us can afford a Moser, and that's just the way it is. But it's not like it's a direct copy or anything like that, so I'm okay with that. Now, I took a nice close look at this, and I expected in this price range to see smudges or fingerprints on the dial or on the polished indices or underneath the crystal, and I found none of that. The dial is really clean and really, really nice. They did a very, very good job of assembling these watches in a clean room environment and doing a good job to keep them looking, well, kind of expensive. Now, let's go ahead and put this on the wrist. I'm wearing one of my personal favorites right now. And it kind of goes okay being dressed up when it's on the rice bead bracelet. This is my Spinnaker Fleece GMT. Absolutely, truly love this watch. It is just fan-friggin-tastic. Let's go ahead and adjust this dual deployment push-button clasp back to my size position, which I believe, if I remember correctly, was the 4th hole. Because I have large wrists. Okay. Now let's get this bad boy on. Okay, super stiff strap, so it's going to be digging into my wrist just a little bit. I'm glad I don't have a fatty wrist where it's like pulling in a whole bunch of flesh, because that just looks nasty. But there it is on the wrist. Now, as you see, that 41.5 millimeters looks much, much larger because of the large dial opening. But the lug end to lug end, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is 48 millimeters, is pretty small. So you could wear this with a 6.5-inch wrist and still be fine. I've got nearly an 8-inch wrist, and this is how it looks on me. Now, let's get to some of the pros and cons on this. Now, I like this simple two-hand look of just the hour and minute hands, but I don't understand the weird choice they made to put a seconds indication on there. So what you have, instead of having a central sweep hand on top, you have what is basically, I guess, the end piece for a seconds hand, for a sweep hand, with the sweep hand broken off. I don't know. But it's just like a cap sitting on top of the cannon pinion, and it's got an enamel arrow painted onto it that gives you a seconds indication. Now, I don't mind having a seconds indication. I just think it's a really bizarre choice on this watch. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see it in the pictures when I ordered it. And it took me probably an hour after I got it, wearing it around the house and looking at it a lot, before I noticed it. It's crazy. The indices are beautifully polished, faceted, and clean. Again, no smudges, fingerprints, no dirt, no dust, no nothing going on in that dial. They did a really, really, really good job. But that weird seconds indication, no, just no. Now, legibility is an issue. I've run into this with a couple of watches, most notably my old Tag Heuer Monaco LS. It was a dream watch of mine that I had the opportunity to purchase for a really, really good discount. At the time, they were about $10,000, $11,000. I think I got it for like $7,000. So I had to jump on it. And I loved that watch. I loved everything about it. It was intricate. It was beautiful. It was a high-end jewelry piece. And it was impossible to read the time. This has the same exact issue where it's got very skinny hands that are mirror polished against a dark and very reflective dial. So you have to move the watch around for the light to catch the hands just right to read what damn time it is. That's not fun. But there are a lot of dress watches that suffer from that. So if you're used to wearing a dress watch all the time, this is not anything new for you. You're probably very well used to it. The only other negative for me is the fact that the Moonphase, while it really looks good in this dial, the aperture is well done, the complication on the wheel is well done. I'm going to pop this out one click to operate it. The problem with it is, actually, let me get the hands out of the way because I don't know if it's going to operate like a calendar gear where if you're in the no-no hours, you could chip a tooth off. Okay. Here's the thing. A true moon phase, to give the actual indication of the moon phases, runs on a 29.5-day cycle. This doesn't. This has 31 positions. So what that means is basically it's running off a calendar complication or some sort of daily, maybe a day of the week, something like that. Anyway, every day you can feel it click over. So that means it's running on a 31-day cycle instead of a 29.5. But does that bother me? No, not really. It's like someone being super crazy about a truly precision movement on their timekeeping, yet they let their mechanicals run down to zero power. Come on, man. It doesn't matter if the watch runs at, 0 seconds per day if it stops regularly. It doesn't really matter at that point. And like that, do I ever really truly need to know what phase the moon is in or when the next new moon is? No. And if I really do, I can look out my bedroom window. Oh, hey, look, a big cheesy moon. or look on an app on my phone or something like that. But it does look really cool. It looks very elegant, and it makes this watch seem a lot more expensive than it really is. So, do I recommend owning this watch? Yes and no. Yes, because it's beautiful and classy. And it looks a lot richer than it really is, and it feels a lot richer than it really is. And no, because if you really shop around, there are a lot of watches at this price that are every bit as nice. Now, maybe not a dress watch with a fancy looking complication in an automatic, but maybe a nice diver or a nice casual wear watch, a field watch, a Flieger, something like that. Where if you're going, okay, I've got around $130, I'm okay with spending on a new watch. I need to acquire something new for my collection. And it's not like, hey, I need a new dress watch specifically, but this is the dollar amount I want to spend. I want a cool new watch that makes me feel good. I don't know that you're going to spend the money on this when there are other watches out there that may compete with it in that price range. So while I like the watch, I hardly ever dress up where I need to have an elegant, refined look. The times that I do, I'm really glad that I have something like this that I can choose to wear. It's a difficult choice whether to go for the blue fume dial, the charcoal to black fume dial, or the brown fume dial. They all three look gorgeous. I went for the blue because it really jumps out at you. It's got a very big color transition. The brown may be a little bit more elegant, and the black may be a bit more neutral. So you can kind of wear it with anything. So that's all individual tastes. So again, really good looking watch. I think it's a good value for what you're getting. That movement, to me, is kind of worth the price of admission alone. And it's funny, I actually contacted a friend of mine who still owns a fairly prolific watch brand that has very high annual sales. And I asked him, I said, hey, what's the deal with this movement? In specific, the Hangzhou movement manufacturer. Are they really good? I know a little bit about them, but I'm not super well versed. He's like, actually, yeah. He goes, I use their tourbillon movements. He goes, I only buy their more expensive, higher end movements. He goes, but I use their tourbillon and it's been fantastic. They've been super reliable, no real service issues or anything like that. And he goes, they make Sellita movements, right? I was like, oh, I said, I knew years and years, almost 20 years ago now when I was really involved hardcore in the industry, I knew that there was a Chinese movement manufacturer that was making the components for Sellita, but I didn't remember who it was at this point. And he's like, yeah, it's them. He goes, they make all the parts, all the components for Sellita, and then Sellita does their, assembly and everything else themselves so that they can call it a Swiss-made movement. But yeah, he goes, so you're buying into quality and you really shouldn't have any issues. And what they say should be what you get, referring to like the 80-hour power reserve. So for my money, I think it's a pretty darn good deal. So anyway, if you've been looking at one of these, maybe you scrolled past it and went, oh, that looks kind of nice, but it could be super cheap. It could be a flimsy case without any substance. It could be a terrible movement. The only thing that looks or feels cheap about it is the strap. That's it. And you swap out the strap, problem solved. So that's my thoughts on this watch. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know. Thank you very, very much. Click the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Also, in the description of this video, you'll see a listing of all of my other YouTube channels. Please check them out. So I'm expanding my horizons, and I hope you guys are entertained by at least a few of those videos. I do my best, and I'll see you on the next video.